Years ago, I stepped on stage for a fancy gala expecting there to be paddles in the air for $20,000, $15,000, $10,000. Seconds before I actually stepped on stage, though, is when I figured out the truth that those weren't real donors. They were just hoping people would raise their paddles at those levels. It was in that moment I realized that the sick feeling I had all day was because this was about to get real awkward. Hey, I'm Danny Rosa. I help nonprofit leaders plan profitable galas without all the guesswork and especially none of the awkward moments. Now, today we're going to talk about setting goals. Why it's so important to set realistic goals and how we actually set those goals. Now, in this particular fancy gala, the goal had jumped dramatically from the year before, but the work that it takes to make sure your goal is in place wasn't actually done that year. So they were really just guessing and hoping that some of the donors who had donated the year before were going to show up and were going to raise their paddle. They had never actually spoken with them specifically. Now, our goal was huge. It was nearly double the year before. And when we started to break down those numbers, it was such an increase per person. But I was, reassured that we had those donors in the room, so I didn't need to worry about it. Now, the reality is when your goal is unrealistic, everybody loses. The audience feels awkward. The team feels demoralized. The auctioneer ends up looking silly up there asking for multiple levels when nobody's actually donating and there's absolute crickets in the room. It's just not a good idea to set goals based on hope. Goal setting isn't just about math, it also sets the emotional tone in the room and ensures that everybody walks away feeling like we won that night. This is where the Pure Profit Iceberg becomes incredibly helpful because it teaches you how to create a profitable gala from the bottom up. It isn't just a visual, it's kind of like a checklist for you as well. So starting at the bottom is where it says sponsors and ticket prices need to cover event costs. In reality, these need to more than cover event costs. Ensuring that this level is taken care of is what protects the rest of the fundraising and allows for you to have a really profitable night. The middle layer is the fundraising foundation. Now, this is the area that most of us don't realize is so important when it comes to goal setting. This is your plants and your matches equal your fundraising foundation. So your pre-committed donors in the paddle raiser, and then anybody who's willing to offer a match in your paddle raiser to allow for a challenge for the audience. This piece is so critical to actually have real conversations with donors to make sure they are planning to show up to raise their paddle at those levels. Kind of some of the rough math for you is that you want to take 50% of your paddle raiser goal and you want to try to plant them in the audience with plants or matches in order to create a really solid fundraising foundation that then starts to let the tip of the iceberg really stick out of the water. Now, the tip of the iceberg is your event night impact. Oftentimes we think that this is the piece to rely on the most for a profitable gala, but really this is the part we want to rely on the least. It's the most out of our control. This is all the bids in the auction, the silent auction, the live auction, and all the donations in the paddle raiser and wherever else you're receiving donations that night. This part of the iceberg is largely out of our control unless our ticket price is high enough so that the resource capacity of the people in the room are high enough that they can bid high on the auction items, they can make big donations in the paddle raiser. And we also want to make sure we have the right items, the right number of items. We've told a really great story during the program to enroll them in the mission, to get them feeling emotional, really connected with their why. There's a few other factors there, but building from the bottom up is really what helps the tip of this iceberg stick out the most. So when you're setting your fundraising goal, you want to make sure that each layer of the iceberg is covered, adds up, and has a plan for its execution. One of the most common mistakes I see organizations make, just like the fancy gala, is that they take their numbers from the year before and they just add more. That's not going to work for you unless you've confirmed that some of these lead donors are coming back. And one of the other great metrics to look at is you want to see how much money you raised per paddle that year, and you want to see if you can meet or exceed that in the upcoming year. That's one of the best ways to make sure that your gala is becoming more profitable or is at least staying on track. To help create more realistic goals, that's why I created the goal setting and ticket price calculator. You can go ahead and download it below. It's going to help you plug in your expenses, your gross fundraising goal, and then it'll break down the goals that you would need to get per level of the iceberg, what you'd be looking at in sponsorship goals, how many paddle raiser plants you would need to get. It would also let you know if your ticket price was realistic so that the tip of your iceberg could be as profitable as possible, because everybody who wasn't arranged to be a plant or a match, we would want to make sure that they had the resource capacity to bid high on the auction items, to make meaningful donations in the paddle raiser. So this calculator is also going to help you see if your ticket price is aligned with that. And if your ticket price is showing up as much higher in the calculator, meaning that in order to reach your goals, you would need a higher ticket price, the way to offset that would be to build your fundraising foundation more, to get more sponsors in place, in order to increase the profitability of your event. If this kind of clarity has been helpful, go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter and you'll get more tips to your inbox. Also, make sure to download your goal setting and ticket price calculator. We hope you have your most profitable gala yet.